This is the Freeheel Life Podcast, episode number 169. I'm your host, Josh Madsen, coming at you from the Freeheel Life Shop in Salt Lake City, Utah. And welcome back, my friends. Happy to be here with you this morning and bring you another fine episode of what is going on in the Freeheel world. I'm going to be joined by Mr. Taylor Johnson today, and we're going to talk about some awesome stuff to lead us into the final stages of the Telemark season here in Utah. And before we do that, I'm just going to cover a couple events. I've bored you the last couple weeks with so many events that you probably skipped over all of them because they weren't in your zone. So I'm only going to tell you what's coming up this weekend so you can make sure to hit those, and then we're going to head right into the meat of it. So the first thing is coming up this weekend in Holiday Valley ski area in Western New York. Telestock is happening Friday, February 24th. It's a free event with free lunch and tele demos run by our good friends at the City Garage Ski Shop. And this is usually a super good time. Shout out to whoever does their posters because they always have amazing posters and graphics for that event. And they are a great group of people holding it down in that zone. So be sure to check that out. If you're anywhere near Ellicottville, New York, go check it out. Telestock. Also, this coming weekend is the 36th annual Corey Anderson Telemark Festival. Saturday the 26th and Sunday the 27th of February in Bromley, Vermont, which I think is Peru, Vermont, but Bromley ski area. So be sure to go to that as well. Another great stronghold of Telemark skiers on the East Coast. And that's what I got for newsroom and notes in terms of where you should go. So I guess it's all East Coast this week, but then we're going to be heading into World Telemark Day. I'll probably spend a lot more time next week going over all the meetups I have. So please, if you have a meetup anywhere in the world for World Telemark Day, please send it to podcast@freeheellife.com so I can let the folks know about it. We're going to talk a little bit about our World Telemark Day event at Alta, our meetup, and our demo day that we're going to have, as that will play into the topic of discussion. But first, let's welcome Mr. Telly Tay back to the podcast. How's it going?
Doing great, Josh. Great to be back on the Freeheel Life podcast. As always, it's been a little while since I did a podcast with you.
I know. I feel like you're like a regular guest, but not on it as much as you probably
I'm like
should.
a regular guest, but I got Freeheel Life the last like 3 months.
I know it's been busy. It's shop's been doing pretty good despite all of the crazy.
It's been a crazy year, crazy busy.
We might not talk about boots this episode, which you guys will all be excited about because boots came and went, and now we're talking about spring and summer. So otherwise it was pretty good though, right? Skiing's been good.
The skiing I have done has been really good. I kind of forgot what it's like to ski when the sun's out because we have had a historic winter this season, which is awesome, but that's also came with historic road closures and historic traffic. So it's been an interesting one. It would have been a good year to live up Little Cottonwood Canyon.
Yeah, what's the longest amount of time that you spent in? So we call it the red snake, which is when you get stuck up the canyon because it makes a red snake of taillights. So longest time sitting in the car from the time you got in the car to the time you got home.
One of our powder day weekends was 3 hours up, 2 hours down, 5 hours total drive time for a round trip of 35 miles. And the following weekend, we boogied 2.5 hours north to Pebble Creek, Idaho for 350 miles total driving and less than 5 hours total drive time. So same time in the car roughly, but 10 times the miles. It's a lot easier sitting in a car when you're going 75 down the interstate instead of parked just looking at the idiots in front of you.
Sorry, Pebble Creek. Terrible skiing up there. Nobody go to Pebble Creek. It's not that close to Utah. And I don't know. I'm trying to deflect because I know the hate's going to come. Because it's bad. We just told people that it's easier to drive to Idaho than ski the greatest snow on earth. That's all right.
Some of the days. I mean, it's with Little Cottonwood where we all kind of have passes. The biggest issue is avalanches. Like there's, I think, over 60 slide paths that go directly across the road, and when you have that much snow and wind and weather. Snow and wind and weather equals avalanches, equals road closures, equals I don't know the exact science, but now everyone's saying that all the slide paths have been greased, so every time it snows and they shoot it from the road, it goes to the road. I don't know what the validity of avalanche path being greased by UDOT is, but
I've never heard that. I like that. Greased avalanche paths. If you want to follow a good Instagram account, it's like UDOT. Do you know which one I'm talking about, where it shows all the avalanches coming?
Sometimes they post on the UDOT Cottonwoods page, which I follow mostly as a update as to when and where road closures or road conditions are happening. But yeah, they post some videos of the roads hitting the slides hitting the road pretty often. It's definitely a gnarly job, and they got thousands of people waiting for them to clear the road, so they definitely hustle, but it also takes some time to clear a road when you got that many avalanche paths that actually slide to the road.
Yeah, no, it's pretty heavy duty. We'll see what happens with that in the future so that you're not spending 3 hours in your car. But today we're going to talk about something important. We're heading to the end of the season, everybody. So we've got about 5 weeks left of shop time in the retail store. So this is an important time for us to make sure to answer all of your questions and obviously sell through the product that we have. So we thought it would be a good idea today to kind of help guide you to maybe how you can look at maybe if you need to update your gear, fix your gear, what type of gear you might be able to try out, and kind of how we can help you through that. Last week I talked about sort of a mid-season maintenance of mind, body, and gear. So this is sort of a follow-up on the gear aspect, which is weird because now I'm saying 5 weeks. That's not like mid-season, but whatever. I feel like this is like the time of year where I start feeling like I'm in the middle of the season and then all of a sudden it's over. So,
yeah, maybe Snowbird might be spinning lifts till July this year.
Well, and then I always feel guilty because then I'm talking to people that are like in an area where their ski resort closes in March. Like some of these Midwest places close like mid-March. So it's really not mid-season. So whatever I'm saying, just...
here's what I want to say is it's springtime almost. I guess technically, by the calendar, spring isn't until March 21st, but it feels like sort of as the temps start rising and we get into spring skiing, and the bias of when we exist in Freeheel Life land, sort of the way we talk about seasons sometimes is like seasons of when the storefront is open. So yeah, we're in the springtime-ish, but yeah, basically it's time to start clearing out the store because we're only going to be open for regular retail hours until April 2nd, I think is the first Saturday in April. Granted, there still might be a lot of you out there skiing, but just by April, it kind of tapers off for us to the point where we want to start doing other things, and the retail store just isn't that busy. So we kind of pack it up for the summer / late spring, but it's time to start clearing out the shop. And there's a couple, great things we have and great ways to potentially get some gear out the door. Springtime usually means some sale prices on stuff. So keep an eye out on email blasts, social media, website for any sale prices if you're just looking for a deal. But Also, like these demo days that we've got going on, like World Telemark Day and a couple other events, all across the planet. We did a promo a couple weeks ago to just send out the demo gear for free one of the weekends. Really just, I'm looking to get people on that stuff and get people on snow. Like, I think there's a big difference between, like, if Josh and I or Miles or whoever's working at the shop is giving you a sales pitch on something. I want to always be honest with all those sales pitches and, hope we are, and hope that the way we talk about gear is the way you experience that gear. But the best way to do it is just experience it for yourself. So that is sometimes easier said than done. We realize a lot of you live in places where, oh, cool, yeah, you guys want me to try the Mejo. Where? Like, I understand that those are some headaches. So some of us are going to have to rely on the sales pitch or the YouTube content that we like to make to walk you through how to use the products, what do these products actually do for you. But if you can find somewhere, hopefully here in Salt Lake, you can come grab a demo setup for a day or two and just go see what it's all about. Whether you're just looking for a new pair of skis, we've got the whole Volet lineup mounted with NTN stuff. We also, for the, I think really first time ever, we had Volet skis with 75 millimeter bindings available for demo. We did not have 75 millimeter boots available for demo, but if you had a pair of trusty 75 boots, we do have a couple pairs of demo skis so you can try a new ski with your old boots. Yeah, basically that's my pitch for come and try something, because the new gear is good, but it's a lot easier for you to make that decision for yourself when you get to try it yourself.
Yeah, and I think demos are a good way. We've always used kind of the word demo and rental as sort of interchangeable, because our demo / rental fleet, it's always been up-to-date stuff. Well, not always. In the very beginning, it wasn't up-to-date, but that was like 9 years ago, so we're not even going to talk about that.
The last several years, it's, I guess, by definition, probably more of a demo, because it's like the latest and greatest gear, new models, new everything, and often it was like we had a brand new fleet every season, so it wasn't even like you were trying a demo ski that had 300 days on it. It was like you're trying a demo ski that had like 8 days on it, so it's as fresh and poppy as a new ski is gonna feel.
Yeah, and so let's talk a little bit about that. I mean, Tay talked about how we sent demos out for free. Our objective is really in those demos. Generally, it's a great sales tool for us, because it, like he said, it's not a sales pitch. It's letting you try the equipment yourself, figure it out, tweak it. And one of the podcasts that I did talking about transitioning to NTN, that's maybe go listen to that if you think you're going to be able to come try a demo here with us or elsewhere. When you're going to be able to demo new equipment, what we encourage you to do is sort of, one, realize you're on new equipment, and then two, try to sort of easily try to figure out what's happening with it. So the biggest thing that we always see is people get boots, skis, and bindings all at once. And typically when you're going to demo something, aside from that 75 millimeter stuff, where maybe you have your own boots and you can isolate maybe the binding or the ski alone.
Yeah, when you change 3 variables at once, that can be pretty tough.
It's hard, and it can be difficult to figure it out. So make sure that one podcast I did, I think it's like 5 steps to transitioning to NTN. If that's your objective this spring, is trying NTN, make sure that, especially if we'll talk specifically about here, is we're always going to walk you through what equipment you're on and then try to give you a good starting point to go transition to that demo day where you're going to be able to try it out. But what I want to encourage people to do is definitely understand the equipment when you go out. Make sure the springs are set in a way that is kind of close to what you're coming from. Your boots, if you are transitioning from like a lower cuff boot to like a 4 buckle, NTN boot, you're aware of what that's going to feel like, and you can slowly do it. But the big thing is and why we wanted to do this podcast is talk about, we've got equipment still to get out the door. We want to help you get on it, and demoing is by far the easiest way to figure out what equipment you need or want. We'll separate those two out because sometimes you don't need it, but maybe you want it. And this is a good time to want it, because if we got it, we're probably willing to make you a deal. So I guess real quick, let's talk about our, we sent the free demos out. Maybe do you want to run everybody through World Telemark Day for us and kind of what that demo is going to look like?
Yeah, totally. So World Telemark Day, this is the 9th annual celebration of the greatest turn on snow, World Tele Day. We are hosting at Alta Ski Area this year, pretty similar to our flow from last season, where we had 22 Designs joined us last year, Volet joined us last year, and we had our tent, and then Scarpa was able to hook it up with a couple extra demo boots. So we had a big mix of demo gear, and we had, two of the companies that we've had good retail relationships with join us over the last couple seasons. This year we're going to be at Alta, like I said. This year Scarpa will be there with a tent and some boots. Valet will be there with some skis with the 75 bindings, like their Switchback and Switchback X2. They've promised me that they're going to have some of their new bindings there.
Oh, wow.
I don't know what else I'm allowed to say about that, but it sounds like they're trying to get their new binding out for some demos on World Tele Day. So if it's not before then, by then that will be a public event, and we can show you guys some pictures and maybe give you a opinion or two, because we could also have a chance to go ski them. But demo day will be basically first come, first serve, in terms of, we're not going to be doing reservations or anything like that. And the demo gear is there really for like 1 or 2 laps, because last year was super popular. Like, we did a ton of demos between the 3 tents, which is great because we were able to, meet a lot of cool people and talk to a bunch of old friends and tele skiers from all over the place, and then get out a bunch of new people. The demo gear does kind of roll like that, where sort of the best way for everybody is if you come by, you take a setup for a lap or 2, and then you come back and you exchange it out or let someone else take that setup. It's not really like, we don't have enough gear to just like set you up for a whole day on something. So the demo day can be a great way to try a bunch of different stuff. It's just maybe not the best way to get a full day or full weekend on one particular setup. Like, that definitely works a lot better if you come and, take out a demo setup for a day or weekend here at the store. But the demo day will be, fun just to, see a bunch of tele skiers, meet some new people, and kind of have a chance to speak with all of us here from the shop and some of our other brands that we work with. And, hopefully that's going to be a big party and have a lot of fun with Alta and kind of red snakes, like we were hinting at earlier in the podcast. You will need a parking reservation for that day. Those are relatively easy to get. altaparking.com. You can book a reservation for Saturday, March 4th. The way those reservations work is you have a reserved spot from 8 a.m. until 1 p.m. So the nice thing that the reservation has done is, if you have a reservation, if you want to make it up there right by 8 o'clock, you can. If you're not going to get up there till 10, you still have a parking spot. And, that is a paid reservation if you're not a season pass holder, but I think it will be worth it. There's also options for ski bus or carpools or stuff like that as well if you can't get a parking reservation. But if you're planning on driving up, parking reservation is not only required but also makes the day a lot easier. Other than that, we don't really have any official events or races or anything else as a kind of supplement to the World Telemark Demo Day. This year we're just rolling demo days, and hopefully we can sneak out for a couple laps in between taking our shifts at the tent, and maybe catch some turns with podcast listeners or just Freeheel Life fans in general. That'll be a lot of fun. But World Telemark Day, Demo Day at Alta for us. There's probably local meetups all over the place. Like Josh said, he's gonna give you the rundown on where all of the meetups and events are happening. But the kind of core principle of World Telemark Day is just get out and go telemark skiing. That can be with your friends. That can be as part of a event like we're hosting. That can be unofficial meetup at the top of a certain chairlift at 11 a.m. at your local hill, whatever that may be. It's just a good excuse to get out and drop some knees with new friends, old friends, or you can always participate with internet friends via hashtag spread telemark and hashtag World Telemark Day.
# for all you old people.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, cool. So awesome. That's a good little recap of what we're going to be doing. Let's talk a little bit about, as we're trying to kind of help you get the equipment you need right now. We've talked about demoing is obviously the easiest way to do that because it gives that personal touch to what you're trying to do. Take hit on it. Just for those that have never done a demo day, or maybe you have, I'm just going to throw a little etiquette out there. He sort of mentioned it. If it's a demo day where you're not, renting the demo for the day by yourself, a good idea to do going into that is, one, realize that other people also want to demo it. So good etiquette is 2 laps is probably acceptable. Don't take it for the entire day. That's classic demo day. Of all the ones I've done over the years, there's always that lagging driver's license that's in there that someone picked it up at 9 a.m. and now it's 5 p.m. and you don't know where they are because they're drinking beer and they've had it all day. So try not to be that person.
Yeah, don't be that guy. Take it out for a lap or two. Give it a run.
Yep.
Let us know what you thought. Come back. We can talk about it, but likely there's someone else that wants to take that same setup out, so spread the love a little bit.
Yep. And what I was going to say is, whether you're demoing on your own, maybe you've rented from the shop, or you're coming to a demo day, one thing I always recommend is try to break up those laps into a couple, maybe variables that you're going to change. So, maybe change the spring tension on the second lap. Maybe, there's not a ton of boots to switch between, but, maybe you're someone who's wondering what a TX comp boot feels like in an outlaw binding, and maybe you're not sure if you want the TX Pro that has a tech toe for whatever reason you may want it, but you want to try them both in the outlaw. That's a good way to do it. Maybe do a lap with the TX Pro, do a lap with the TX comp, and that way you can feel the difference. And honestly, that's the best way to do a demo day is, you take a really long lap and have the ability to feel things side by side in the moment. That's going to be super helpful. And then learning how to adjust the binding could be really good too. Or maybe it's a lap if we have, for instance, like a Majo binding or a Lynx that's like tech toe. Maybe you want to do a lap with that and then take the same boot and do a lap with the Outlaw. That's a really good way to do it as well. So
I would also add that on your demo day, not only the etiquette of doing 1 or 2 laps, maybe trying to adjust spring tension on that second lap, but also try to pick a variety of terrain on the way down if possible. Go hit those 5 moguls on the side, then get back to the groomer, then go try and find the leftover POW from the storm a couple days ago, or go try and find the, where the snow in the sun and it's got maybe like corning up a little bit. Like, right, obviously it depends on whatever weather you got that day, but if you can kind of go from a little bit of moguls, a little bit of chop, a little bit of powder, a little bit of groomers, a little bit of more variable snow, like just to give it a run through too of like, what does this ski do in a variety of ski conditions that I might face when I actually buy this setup. Like, I mean, we've talked about that when we're like testing skis, or when we were doing prototypes for the original protectors, like all those original prototypes, it was, we skied them like more than one day, but it was also like, if we were just flipping back and forth between a couple skis quickly, it was like we were trying to make, not just like cruise the groomer down, because that would give you an idea of what the ski does on the groomer. But if you can kind of explore around and get a little bit of everything, that, sometimes easier said than done to find all of those snow conditions on one lap. But if you can, experiment around with it.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. When you're testing, that's a perfect way to describe it, because I think about all the ski testing I've done over the years. Like I've done skiing magazine tests, I've done backcountry and Telemark skier magazine tests. Really, you're only spending max 2 runs, because there's so much equipment to go through that, whether you're testing it for an editorial piece or you're testing it for your own personal use, you should be able to know kind of what's happening within 2 runs. I mean, now with all those variables changing, I think this is one good thing for people that are local, and the fact that we have some 75 stuff in-house right now on the Volet skis, and then also Volet being at our World Telemark Day event. I will say, and I wanted to kind of point back to, Taylor did a YouTube video earlier in the season about what to do when your G3 Targa is toast and maybe your boots aren't ready to switch out yet, so maybe you're looking for the next 75 millimeter binding. I think this is a great opportunity this time of year for those people that are on a cable binding like a Targa, to be able to try out a switchback, which is what Taylor was pointing people to in that YouTube video. Is, maybe you're not ready to jump to NTN, but spring is a great time. This time of year is a great time to try out a binding that is similar in performance, but it has parts that are accessible to fix it for the foreseeable future, unlike Targa and some of these other bindings where the cables just aren't available. So, again, we're not ever telling people not to buy 75 millimeter equipment. Actually, the opposite. If you're not ready to move on, or there's not an NTN product that really fits what you're looking for, this is also a really good time to look for something in the 75 millimeter category with bindings to better your experience, And so just to touch on that a little bit, maybe you can just talk a little. We don't have to redo that whole video here, but you talked about, specifically you were talking about G3 Targas, but I think any cable binding, like maybe you're on a, even on like an old Riva Z setup, or, these cables that don't exist anymore. Maybe walk people through a little bit about this opportunity to be able to even try like a switchback with their current boot. Yeah. How that can be good.
First nice thing about being able to try a new binding with your current boots is that you have one variable that's a constant, where it's not trying to adjust to all 3 pieces of ski equipment at the same time. It's easier to isolate, like, what does this binding actually do for me, or what does this binding and ski actually do for me? In that little video we kind of hinted on that. Like, I mean, the Targa is kind of like becoming extinct, but also like the Targa will never die, like probably just because of default of how long they were available, how popular they were, how many people still love them, and why we compared that to the switchback. the quick bullet point is it's about the same activity in terms of where that binding is pivoting. There is a couple options in terms of stiffness of the spring cartridge. And then the big thing for like buying something new is that the Voile switchback, although it has been on the Voile catalog for a long time, it's still on the Voile catalog. They still make all the parts. I do find that binding to be relatively reliable, but if you do break something, you can just buy it. Like, you don't have to go digging. You don't have to dig through a parts bin. You don't have to reach out to some random group on the internet. You don't have to, dig through the consignment shops to see if you can find a full binding just to part out. Like, you can just go to freeheellife.com, Voile parts, buy a heel lever, buy a connecting rod, buy a spring cartridge, whatever that may be. You can just kind of do that. It's also like that binding does have a touring mode, which I think is better. I think that binding also has the hardwired design, provides more lateral control, so you have a little more edge pressure. Like, it kind of checks all the boxes while keeping you in that same realm of style, feel, era, performance, whatever metric you use to measure like why you like that, Targa binding, for example. So yeah, 75 gears still out there. If you got a good pair of boots, you don't want to give up, that's fine. There's limited options compared to what was available for 75 like 10 years ago, but that doesn't mean there's no options available. Anything else on the Targa? Otherwise, I wanted to ask you a question as to, like, so you've been doing more backcountry skiing than normal. From Instagram, I think you've been rolling on the Lynx and Protector 95s mostly. Any thoughts, comments on like what that binding actually is doing for you? Because I think sometimes we talk about like what features of the products are or how that relates to kind of skiing, but maybe we can talk a little bit, since we've been skiing kind of different setups, like what that gear is actually doing for me as a skier. Like, it's not necessarily just like you're on the new thing so that you're on the new latest and greatest thing, but like, why have you been choosing that product?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. Normally I just kind of default to like Outlaw. That's, I think in the shop we've always kind of just, it's just a great binding to have on whatever ski, because I can go hike on it. It's got a great tour mode, just like the Axle does. Or, I can go to the resort where I don't need a tour mode and it's just easy. But I have had, there's a couple things about the setup I've been skiing that's interesting to me, because it's different than I have done in the past. And the Lynx specifically, here's what I like about that setup that I've been skiing. I've been doing really low angle POW stashes and stuff, which has been nice, because I'm teaching Kate how to do some simple backcountry stuff. So like, I'm not really getting after it. I'm not going like huge vertical or anything like that. So the setup I've been rolling is the Protector 95 with the Lynx. I've got the standard plates, although I'm going to shift over to the softy plates because I've been meaning to do that. Funny enough, I think they're set on 1 on the pivot point, which is interesting because I normally roll middle, and I kind of think I like that first position, which is so weird. I feel like you and I have gone through this weird evolution over the years. Like 9 years ago, it was like stiff, whatever. Yeah. And I started the season out skiing on the Scarpa TX, which is the boot that doesn't exist, the 3 buckle, much softer, well, a little bit softer than the TX Pro. Lynx standard plate on 1, meaning furthest forward on the slick pin setup. And it's been great. And I've been skiing a shorter ski. I've been skiing the 174 Protector. And here's what I like about it. For what I've been doing, anything like 6 inches or less, the shorter ski's fine. And the 95's been great. Anything 6 inches or more at my height and weight, I probably would have preferred going a little bit longer. I think it's just because I'm used to skiing that 184-ish length, and I personally like that extra length just out of habit. And when it starts getting a little deeper, I start feeling a little more nosedive and stuff. But for touring and just this simple stuff, walking around, it's been great. I like the tech toe, super easy. I've had a little bit of icing issues, but overall, like having that tech toe is super sweet. And then I've inserted them so I can pull it off and put an Outlaw on if I want to put an Outlaw on and go ski as well. So it kind of plays in with what we're talking about with the demo is let's say you're an outlaw skier or you haven't ventured into the tech toe realm. I think these demo days or taking a personal demo out, getting the tech toe going, if you have a TX Pro or a boot that has tech toe in it, I think it's great. I mean, honestly, I don't really notice, and I'm someone, I was going to say, I don't really notice that I'm on a tech toe binding when I ski in the resort, which is totally different. Like if you asked me when tech toe came out, I was totally a naysayer. I was like, how is this possibly going to hold my foot in?
Yeah, it does seem like it's kind of like, whoa, really? Like those things seem kind of like little, and it doesn't seem like it hold a lot of force, but I mean, they hold you, they grab your boot. No,
they're fine, and honestly, and there has been that argument that like, as a resort skier, like, I know, Pierre from In Wild has always said that it's like a superior toe connection. Like there's no slop in it, which is probably true, honestly. I mean, and once you're in and you figure out how to get into the tech toe, I don't necessarily think there's a huge difference. So again, if you're a customer out there that's thinking about whether you should get tech toe or not get tech toe because you're in the resort a lot, most of the time I think all of us will probably direct you to the Outlaw because I still feel like tourability is fine on it.
Yeah, we usually default to like kind of a percentage based thing is kind of how we like to talk about it, of like, if you're doing more than half your time on that particular setup in the backcountry, it's totally worth getting a tech toe or at least considering the tech toes. If you're doing more than half your time in the resort, I think a lot of us have opted for just like the simplicity of the toe cage of like an Outlaw binding and knowing that the tour mode totally works. Like certainly it's a little bit heavier. It's not quite as cool as tech toes for backcountry use, I suppose, but it's also like it kind of, is that percentage thing. I think most of the people that we probably sell the tech toe setups to, it's like that's their kind of dedicated backcountry setup where it's like, they have like a slightly lighter, more backcountry oriented ski, like, whatever. And then the tech toe, and it's either backcountry day and they grab the tech toes, or resort day and they grab the Outlaw or the free rides or whatever. But yeah, I mean, you can totally use it in both. That's kind of interesting that you've been using them, sort of setting things up like a little bit softer. I mean, my first reaction was thought more like that's kind of like terrain dependent of like, if you're not like, if it's not that steep or you're not skiing that fast, I don't think you need like the horsepower of like that binding with the spacers and position 3. Like, that seems like maybe overkill for certain types of just more chill terrain.
It's totally. Like in this zone I've been skiing by my house, it's like, it's more like wiggling, like it's full snow wiggling. It's not like I don't have enough vertical to really open it up. And so softer, less active binding and softer boots let me wiggle faster. As dumb as that sounds, it's like I can wiggle around faster and it just makes it more fun, And I think that's what we've talked about over the years is, stiffer setups just require more effort. So,
they more speed. Like Miles has been using a good sort of analogy with people down at the shop this season, which is like talking about like a car transmission of like if a setup has like, first gear to like fifth, he's like talking about specifically about TX Pro and TX comps, just to isolate a couple things here. like, you know, Miles thinks the TX Pro is like 1st to 5th gear, and the TX Comp is like 2nd to 6th gear. So it's like you kind of, you know, with the stiffer equipment, you need a little bit more like speed or power from skier input to like get it going. And then you might have a little bit more of a top end. With the slightly softer setup, you can kind of just like roll, like, you know, right out of the starting gate, I guess. And then like maybe you're not going to notice that like slight difference in power and performance until the very most top end of the setup, which I don't know. I thought that was kind of an interesting analogy.
No, that's a cool way to look at it, you know. And I think that's what's been interesting in the terrain that I've been skiing with this setup is I fully agree that the terrain dictates a lot of these setups, you know, and you just, the biggest thing, and I, again, kind of hearkening back to this demo day and trying stuff when you can, I think what it's doing, it's just going to give you more perspective about what type of stuff that you want to ski. A great example is like, you know, we went out yesterday, took the dog for the first time, we're walking around, you know, I was on that setup, you know, I've got Tech Toe, which again, that thing's so easy to use. I snap the claw down, you know, and Majo would be the same way. I don't really think a whole lot about the binding. I mean, I spent the whole day walking. I barely skied downhill. We ended up just doing a lot of walking. And what was funny is, you know, we're fully skinned up, and I came out of that experience and I was like, oh, that's so funny. Like, I totally could have been the T4 guy with the scaled skis.
Yeah, you probably would have been loving life on like a T4 and a Ultra Vector BC in like a 171 or something.
Totally. Yeah. And I think that's the thing is, again, this is a time of year where you can really kind of look at what, you know, not everybody has the ability to have this like wide quiver of skis and boots and bindings. But when you can, there are these situations where, you know, like I said, yesterday was more of a travel day, and I kind of came out of it going, okay, like this is totally, you know, the more and more I talk to people and get feedback on the podcast, and I'm sure you guys get it in the shop, is there is a real gap in the market for the person who's identify as like, I'm a Telemark skier, but I sort of want this quick transition. Maybe I don't even want to have the skins with me, or maybe I have them in the pack in case it gets super steep. But, you know, it's all what you're doing. And also just comfortability too. The more you're walking around, I mean, Kate was saying the same thing. I mean, she's skiing a T2 Eco, and despite what people think I'll post her skis on the Instagram because she's got these vintage Volet skis with G3 Targas. We were joking about it this morning actually, because, you know, people would be like, why do you have those old skis? And it actually goes back. I started her on NTN, and this is actually kind of goes back to what we're saying. I started her on NTN. I was like, here you go. Here's a ski setup. And, she doesn't like really restrictive feeling of boots. Like, she hates ski boots, right? Because they're uncomfortable. And she's wearing like a T2 Eco. It's soft. It's like 3 buckle. I mean, to us, that's not crazy, but she just likes the feeling that she gets on that particular setup. So even though it's like a vintage setup, it's not because she doesn't have access to it. It's actually just because that's what felt right. And it was like, okay, cool. Well, I guess you're rolling on vintage, you know, Targa.
Well, maybe she should come up to Alta with you on March 4th, and she can stop by the Volet tent and try one of the Ultra Vectors and a switchback, just to see if, you know, she'd be a case study, because she's like kind of biased because she's like involved with, you know, you and Freeheel Live.
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
she knows
for
what's
sure.
going on here, but also like see if, also she's like kind of a learning Telemark skier, so she's a little bit like less like maybe connected to like the feels of all the different eras of setups and whatnot. So like if you just send her out on like, you know, I mean, was it an old Carbon or Mountain Surf that she has?
Old Mountain Surf.
Yeah, Mountain Surf and a Targa. Like fast forward 20 years, like Ultra Vector and a switchback is about as close as we would get, where it's like same brand ski, probably same type of philosophy, similar activity on the binding.
Yeah, and it's funny. So we talked about this when we got back to the truck yesterday, and you know, she was saying immediately, because the boots for her, you know, she's not used to wearing like a restrictive boot, you know, not a lot of ski background at all. So like a ski boot's very foreign to her. And so, you know, she's like, man, leather boots would be so good. And this kind of brings up another thing with demoing at a resort and why I think it's important. Because I'm thinking, she says leather, and my brain's immediately like, are you sure? You know, because it's fun to have that in the catalog of stuff that you can choose from. But, you know, one thing that I'm noticing with her is we've only done backcountry days this year. The amount of reps is so much lower than getting on a lift.
Yeah, I mean, it's like how many hours in the backcountry equals 1 hour of lift service.
100%. Like, and that's what we talked about. We both agree, like, learning in the backcountry, the variability of the snow. You know, yesterday was like the first day where we went out and it wasn't like perfect 6 inches of POW on the top. I mean, we've been really fortunate. Awesome year. It was like, it heated up. It's bluebird. We hit some south facing stuff that was like manky, and she was like struggling, you know, just making P turns now, you know, and it was like, whoa, you know, again, you know, you talk about taking variables out. It was interesting to watch how to navigate this equipment, even in new snow conditions. And so, yeah, I think, again, trying equipment out when you can get it, whether it's a demo day or swapping with your friends or NTN or maybe Targa, you know, like her, it's like a switchback probably would do well. But the reps are so important. It's just getting the reps and learning how to navigate that equipment and the different types of boots. So yeah. Yeah, I guess so. The whole point of that being is, when you can try stuff out, try it, but also don't, you got to wear what's comfortable and you got to wear what feels right. And I think that's the hardest thing with Telemark as a retailer, is trying to figure out where people land and trying to get them the opportunity to try stuff that fits not only their style of skiing, but what feels good, you know? And there's a lot to be said for feeling good on the mountain. I mean, I think if you're comfortable, it's likely you're going to have a better time, you know?
Totally. It's look good, feel good, play good on the golf course. So look good, feel good, ski good must apply to telemark skiing.
Totally. No, I think that's a real thing. And I think, you know, the different terrain that you're going to, you know, as far as, you know, going back to the whole terrain thing, I think you've got to look at what you have the ability to purchase. And you've sort of like you're talking about, the transmission kind of concept, is if you can only buy one setup, it's really important that you know how much you're going to be in the backcountry versus the resort, and then finding sort of that overlap of comfortability with performance. Because I think if you don't put a little bit of thought and you try to talk to somebody that can help walk you through that, you might end up with a setup that's just too much for you personally at the point of where you are in telemark skiing, and you know, you just don't want to be there. So, you know, to go back to like NTN stuff, I mean, if you end up with too stiff of a setup right off the bat, again, age, type of skier, weight, height. I mean, I talked to one of our protector customers the other day, you know, and you know, I think he was clocking in at like 225 and probably like over 6 feet. So he's a little closer to my size. A TX comp boot was like nothing to him. I mean, that thing's like butter. I mean, he can flex it. It works. But if you put that TX comp on a guy who's like $160, I mean, that's a really stiff boot for a guy that maybe doesn't want to turn it up and ski hard. And so anyways, I think all of this goes back to, if you can try it, don't overdo. Don't get the souped up transmission if you don't need it, and also be honest with yourself. Like, even if you think you're an amazing skier, just really be honest with yourself, like how you want to ski on the hill, because you don't want to end up with like this souped up situation where you're like, I can't flex the boot, I can't flex the spring, and you just changed your whole setup. This is what we're trying to get at. Come try stuff out and get informed.
Yeah, totally. Get informed where you can, try it where you can, and when you can't, call us and buy from us, because we can walk you through it and get you onto the product that is gonna make the best sense for that. So, well, I don't know, how far in are we into this?
We're pretty deep.
All right, cool. Because we've been trying. We sat here and thought, okay, what should we talk about today? Okay, it's like kind of like almost springtime. We got some gear in the shop. We're trying to clear it out. We got some events going on, and then we just press record, and here we are. But
I was gonna say the last thing before we close it out is, for those of you that aren't looking at getting new setups, last week I talked about gear maintenance. Give your binding a once over, and look at what's going on with it. Boots are boots. You want to look at that from a maintenance perspective.
Yeah, maybe it's time for liners. Maybe it's time to replace a power strap. You might have been going here, but the first things I think to mind of like binding maintenance is like springs wear out. I don't know. I replace my springs every season because they only got so many flexes in them before the sort of property of the spring changes a lot. Other pieces of maintenance is like, we wax our skis or we get them tuned. Like, our boots and bindings are included in that.
Yeah, for sure. And I was going to say, like, if there's one thing that we have a ton of right now, it's parts, old, used parts and new parts. But especially a lot of the parts that are available, like the new parts that we have all the Majo parts in-house. We've got all the 22 parts in-house, Volet parts. Definitely look over your bindings and look at if they're functioning correctly, and definitely check out freeheellife.com for all the part needs that you have. Just keep your stuff running in tip-top shape. I think that's so important, is you're going to have a better experience. You might not need to buy a new setup right now, but make sure that the bindings are working correctly. I was thinking even on the 75 side, like, we talked a lot about Switchback and Switchback X2. One thing I think people overlook a lot of times is it has a hard wire. We're always saying, Targa, Riva cables, all these cables that break. Sometimes people often overlook the hard wires getting bent, and then all of a sudden you can't, you're not lubricating the cartridges correctly. Which needs to be done. We've talked about that in countless videos, and how to keep that maintenance rolling. Your cartridges need to spin freely. You need to lubricate them, especially this time of year as it gets really wet. And then definitely don't store them wet, because that's where it all goes wrong. But that hard wire can bend, and that's a fixable problem. Unthread it, buy a set from us, and then you can get your bindings running again and keep them in good shape. So parts are fully stocked. That's another thing to keep in mind as you head into spring. You got anything else you want to add?
Not really. Go out there, have fun, make some turns. Hope to see you on World Tele Day. Retail stores open Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday. Closed Tuesday, Thursday for, us to give some people some days off and to do some behind the scenes work. As work, this is kind of the home stretch of the season. So, our goal is to have a totally empty shop come April 2nd. And then, we can start planning for next year and start fun things like, building skis or whatever else we got up our sleeves this summer. So yeah, that's about it for me. Follow Telite on Instagram. Thanks for having me on the podcast. Please shop at freeheellife.com, and hope to see you on World Telemark Day.
Love it. All right. Be sure to sign up for that mailing list. Taylor's got those going out a couple times per week. Like we said, this is the time of year you want to stay up to date on what's going on, deals that we've got, and how to connect with us. If you need to reach out direct, go customer service at freeheellife.com. Reach out to me at podcast@freeheellife.com, especially if you're mad about the gerbils and Pop-Tarts. And you are feel free to email me there. You can follow me at Josh Nomadson on Instagram and Facebook. And we'll see you next Monday. Until then, spread Telemark always. See you later.